so I don't have power. So I'm sorry about the lighting and
Oh,
stuff, but I'm actually running on generator right now. So I should have enough
okay.
gasoline. Yeah, I should have enough fuel to get us through the stream. Let me just make sure you can see my screen if I share my screen. That's working?
Coming up. Yeah, that's working fine.
Okay, wonderful. And I'm just going to get some things open in the background.
Yeah, you can just open that. We'll maybe wait
Um,
for a couple of minutes and then we can get started.
for sure. And I'm just going to have some reference points open
Yeah.
uh, to help our discussion.
It's wonderful to see people joining from different geographies.
Yes, yes, this is quite exciting. Okay. Okay, so I have everything open here and I'm going to talk about they've changed. Have they changed the documentation? They have. I'm glad I went on here early. They've changed everything. Hang on. Why would they do this? Oh, I'm so sorry. The Lang chain has changed their website layout
Oh, okay.
and uh, uh, here we go. All right, I did find it.
For the alternative,
I'm sorry.
you got it running, the background things.
Oh, I found the link I was looking for. I'm just trying to see where this is hidden in their documentation now. Docs and modules. Let me try to find this from the main homepage. Docs. Wow, they've really buried this stuff. I don't know why they have done this to their website. This is brand new overnight. Here we are under chatbots retrieval.
Let me know when we are good to start, I
Oh,
guess.
anytime you want to start, we can get going.
Oh, that's weird. And electricity is down for me.
Oh no. Oh no.
It should be back in a minute or so. Let me check.
Hi everyone, my name is Dipanshu. Hi John. I'm Abhijit's partner at Pilot Lab. So quickly, we'll just wait for another few minutes for Abhijit to join in. I think he has some electricity issues. So he has actually got his house remodeled. And, on Monday, it was his, the first time they entered the house and everything. So still there were a few things that he was still taking care of in the new house. I think it could be an issue, but just give us a minute and we'll start accordingly. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. Hi. John, if you could, if you want, you can give a quick introduction about yourself so that people know who you are. And, it was planned that Abhijit should have given your introduction and that ways, but.
Oh,
So,
no. We'll be
yeah.
very fluid. I understand power issues. If you notice the weird lighting I have right now, it's because
I see.
I'm on generator power right now. So we had a freak snowstorm last night. We got about 3 feet of snow, and the trees are down and the power lines are down. So I'm on a generator, but I should have enough power to get through the presentation. In terms of an introduction, well, thank you for joining. My name is John Capobianco, and I live just outside of Ottawa in Canada, on the Quebec side of the river. I've been a network engineer for about 20 years. I bounced around a little bit, and then I found a home with an insurance company in Kingston, Ontario, where I worked my way up to be the senior network engineer. I was there for about 7 years, and then I moved to the Parliament of Canada, the House of Commons, where I was a senior network architect on a multi-year project to completely build the Parliament's network up as a green field, brand new equipment, 45 buildings, multiple data centers, over 450 WAN sites. In 2015, I had the fortune of going to my first Cisco Live. And at that first Cisco Live was the first time DevNet had a real, actual large area. And I spent a lot of my time in DevNet learning about automation and new ways to approach network management and network automation and coding and programming. So we started with Ansible in 2015.
Yeah.
And I was so successful with Ansible and really enamored with the tool that I wrote a book. I self-published a book called Automate Your Network, The Modern Approach to Enterprise Network Management, that is open source now. So if you want to buy a copy, that would be great, but it's open source on GitHub. In 2019, though, I was introduced to Cisco PyATS. And Cisco PyATS introduced me to a Pythonic approach, and I completely refactored my approach from Ansible to Python with PyATS. And then just as recently as last year, I started going on my artificial intelligence journey. So in November of 2022, when ChatGPT became available, I got an account. And then I got API access. And then I started building plugins and GPTs. And then I started building with LangChain. So that's a quick introduction for me. Abhijit, I'm glad you got everything sorted out. It's nice to have you back.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the hiccup that we had because my electricity went down as well, like here. So I had to arrange it, but I guess it's back now. So I'd like to introduce again to myself and the webinar that we're having. We've had a webinar before as well, and this is our second webinar with an amazing individual over here. So thanks, John, for joining me. And again, to all the people who are joining us, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar that we're going to have on AI and automation, where we're going to talk about crafting the blueprint for tomorrow's network infrastructure. So we're thrilled to have you join us, John, for, you can say, what promises to be an enlightening discussion on the transformative role of AI, which we know now, artificial intelligence, and the automation in shaping the future of network automation. So when we speak about automation, my journey goes back into 2017 or 2018. Being an instructor since the beginning of my career, I used to deliver trainings on routing and switching courses from the early days of my career. Then I picked up service provider domain at a little bit of peak. Then some part of security, some part of data center. But then I also came across, so my training organization had a requirement where they wanted to deliver a training which Cisco used to deliver back in the days called implementing automation and network programmability on Nexus boxes. So there used to be a couple of certifications and a couple of exams. And I started delivering those courses, which got me familiar with programmability and coding with Python and all. And because from my college days, I was good with programming, and then I took interest into networking. So I was able to blend both of these technologies together and understand where the ship is sailing. So I picked that stuff up and I started liking it quite a lot, because earlier, while I was delivering trainings, I used to do a lot of CLI work. Then I used to write, started learning writing code, which would eventually push configuration onto multiple devices in one go, which was fascinating at that time. So I was like, this is magic. And then the news break out where Cisco started coming out with their announcements that DevNet is going to be out soon. And then I started to look in the, you can say, a developer.cisco.com portal, which was also announced recently. So I started looking at the articles which were being put out there in the early days. And then I picked up DevNet pretty fastly. Then ever since I picked that up, it's been a roller coaster ride for me. After that, COVID hit up, and then all of my calendar used to be jam-packed with trainings for something like a course which I launched personally was Python for network automation with a combination of DevNet Associate official curriculum. And my calendar was jam-packed for an entire year in that. So in COVID, we started this company, Pioneer Labs, where we focused specifically on courses and certifications of DevNet, DevNet Associate, DevNet Professional, and then now I'm a DevNet Expert. And currently, I've been delivering trainings and consultancy in the domain of network automation for more than now 5 years, I would say. And yeah, that's about myself. I belong from a state of Maharashtra in India, but I've been living in Delhi for about 10 years now. And I keep on traveling here and there due to work and the opportunities that I get. And recently, we have started this scenario where we are trying to host webinars with wonderful and enthusiastic individuals who are doing a way lot of things in the domain of network automation. You're one of that, and I'm so glad to be able to, you can say, hang up with you and have a webinar co-hosting together. I also had a webinar earlier with Stuart Clark, and it was wonderful, where we discussed about demystifying the blueprint of DevNet Associate so that people can look into the details of DevNet Associate exam, and then they'd be able to gain more knowledge towards how that blueprint can be used in order to learn what exactly are the key pointers that needs to be focused for cracking the exam. And then
I watched some of that seminar. Stuart's I would consider him a good friend of mine, and he does have his new handbook out for the DevNet Associate, which I think is wonderful. And I agree with you. So when I was coming up, after you got your CCNA, typically you went for your CCDA, your Design Associate, but that's been retired. I would suggest the next exam after your CCNA, or even your first exam now, could be the DevNet Associate, because there's still 20% related to networking. No, but continue. I just want to chime in that Stuart's an awesome guy. He really is great for the community all around.
Yeah. So and because now in the domain of me delivering trainings to a lot of individuals in the APAC region, I still get asked a very common question, which is a lot of individuals do have 10, 15, 20 years of experience in core networking, where they've been designing the network, be it for the security domain, for the data center domain, for the service provider domain. Do we really need to learn programming from the basics? Do we really need to do that print hello world again? So I thought it's quite important for them to know the power of network automation at a larger scale. And that's why I'm trying to connect with people like you and create content and information over the internet with the help of the content, so that they can be enlightened with why network automation is so important in today's environment.
Well, I think it's a great question. I think it's a valid question, especially if you've been doing network engineering for a significant amount of time and you've got your certifications and you really know what you're doing and you can design networks and understand IP addresses and all that great stuff. Why do I need programming? Do I really need hello world? There's a few different approaches. There are abstraction layers like Ansible that you can more or less pick up and just start using. You don't really need to learn any core programming. They handle loops differently. They handle variables a little bit differently. The key here is that for Ansible or something like Terraform, it's a YAML specification.
Yeah.
It's just space delimited structured text. It's not really code, even though it's called infrastructure as code. Now, I mean, you have the option of starting there, a low barrier for entry, or maybe a higher barrier for entry might be Python with Nornir or Paramiko or PyETS or different Python approaches. I still believe, just like networks, you have to have a core understanding of the OSI stack and subnetting and routing, right? There's switching, there's certain things that you have to have the basic understanding of to really understand and be successful at scale and with complexity. If you're going to start writing network automation code, I do think you should write a hello world in Python and get that to print to the screen. Number one, to demystify it and to say, wow, that's easy. It's one line of Python and it'll print hello world to the screen. Holy cow, I can figure this out. If you've got your CCNA is extremely challenging. I do not want to diminish the difficulty in even the CCNA. And then obviously the CCNP all the way up to CCIE, and difficulty scales and gets more challenging. If you can figure that out, you can be successful and figure out automation and coding and programming. I really believe that you can do it. It is especially now that Python is available. So you mentioned college. When I went through school to be a computer programmer analyst, which meant modern languages at the time, 25 years ago, C++, Java, Visual Basic, HTML, JavaScript, and then legacy languages to support mainframes. So COBOL, CIX, JCL, things like that. We didn't learn Python. Flash forward 20 years, there's a new abstraction layer in Python that is pseudocode. I mean, it's almost just like the human language describing what you want the code to do, you know, in dotted notation, and Python has its own special formula. But I'm excited about this. And we've been talking about this. Some of us have been talking about network automation for almost 10 years now. Almost 10 years. 2025 will be 10 years for me. And some people even longer. I learned from people like Jeremy Schulman, who I think you should have on the show, Stuart, and so many people out there. Hank Preston, obviously, yes. Danny Wade. There's many people in my journey that have helped me adopt Python. So it's a very exciting time. And the thing I'll mention is that the stepping stone to artificial intelligence for me was network automation. So core network engineering, network automation, artificial intelligence, because a lot of the same tools we use in network automation can be reused, like Python, in the artificial intelligence development space.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And if I speak about, I mean, the trends, the current trends in the industry, people have started picking up network automation. I mean, there is a very few chunk of audience who have been able to catch up with automation with a lot of speed, right? People still are learning about DevNet Associate, and then they are stepping up the journey towards professional and towards expert. But if we look at the industry trends, AI is something that is rapidly being introduced in the industry. And I think that it might be, I mean, every day, if any individual thinks of stepping into the network automation space and they say that, okay, let me start tomorrow, then it's late. I mean, AI is being introduced in the industry with so much of speed that organizations are starting to integrate it as fast as they can. So individuals who want to reserve their seats in the industry and do better in the domain of network automation should start learning it as soon as possible. They should not think about, let's start tomorrow. That's what I personally feel. What do you think about that?
Well, I think you should do it at the same time. I think right now you should adopt artificial intelligence as much as you can. And if you're on your journey for network automation, use it as a friend, as an associate, as an augmentation. Please help me write a PyATS test to test interface counters. Ask the AI. It will give you the Python. Take the Python, move it into a script, test it, And if it doesn't work, go back to the AI with the error that you get. Use it as almost like pair programming. You have an assistant, you can use it. And so use that on your journey to learning network automation, right? If you struggle with Git, as an example, if you're new to Git and you're trying to learn how to do branches in Git and do version and source control, but it's brand new to you, ask artificial intelligence. Please help me understand these Git commands. Please help me. I'm brand new to network automation, and I'd like to store my Python scripts in a Git repository. Could you help me get started? So you're practicing your prompt engineering, you're learning about Git, and you're moving your journey forward with network automation. Now, there was a question in the chat, how is Gen AI going to help in network engineering? There's a few different aspects that we can talk about. I don't know if it's too early in the discussion to jump into artificial intelligence, but on the network automation point, I believe that it's going to become the de facto standard, an expectation of employers that their networks are going to be automated. I think that's a matter of time until these DevNet associate and DevNet professional skills and things like Git and Docker and Kubernetes and Terraform and Ansible, all these things become just part of our networking toolkit as much as an SSH PuTTY session or secure CRT or whatever tool it is we use to connect. Right. So I think that the toolkit is growing for network engineers. There's more and more to learn. Absolutely. And it's not easy to keep up with all these changes. But like you said, tomorrow is too late. You need to be starting today, right? And there's all kinds of, the best part is in this modern world of YouTube, of GitHub, of DevNet, there is so much resources out there to get you started and to help you become successful with network automation that there's nothing holding you back. Yes, there are books you can buy. Yes, there are courses you can pay for, but there is so much free material on YouTube and on DevNet and around the world that right, there's nothing holding you back. There's no barrier for entry here, right?
When you say that there is so much of interesting material available on the internet, I feel that many people also feel, in a way, in a context, scared about artificial intelligence. Because let me tell you my observation towards it. When I interact with people who sign up for DevNet Associate, they get to see that there is a technology stack that they need to learn about. Now, the same technology stack that they also learn about core networking, right? When we talk about OSPF, EIGRP, BGP, access control list, NAT, and all of this stuff, this is nothing but a technology stack, right? When we look at DevNet Associate, they also get to see a same technology stack that is maybe Git, that is maybe pipelining, that is maybe Python, that is maybe Ansible, Terraform, a lot of it. But sometimes when I interact with people, they feel kind of a discomfort that, do I really need to learn all of these together? Well, that's not a feeling that they get when they learn about networking. But when they're stepping into a new world of programming, then they have this discomfort that, okay, this is going to be a lot of learning. This is going to be a lot of time-taking process. Is it really worth it that I need to step in the game and then start learning all of these things? And I really like the point that you mentioned, that AI is not something that you need to be scared of. AI is there to help you, you can say, do the stuff in a faster way possible. So again, because AI is something that does magical things, which humans might take a longer time to achieve, but because we can ask a machine to do that particular an operation on behalf of you, people also think from a perspective that, okay, if this is doing such a magical thing, it must be so complex to learn it. It must be so complex to adapt it, or it must be so complex to build something using AI. Do you agree? And what do you think about it?
Well, I let me start here. In terms of developing with AI, it can be as simple as an API call to an artificial intelligence. Right? Okay. Now, we have to peel that back a bit. Some people may not know what I mean by an API call, an application programmable interface.
Yeah.
The artificial intelligence is listening on a port for requests to come in a certain format into the API, and then it's going to calculate and generate the response and give the response back to us. Here's a practical example of where I started.
Yeah.
And there's a great question in the chat that I want to address as well. And I think generally speaking, I struggled with the deck of cards example for Python. Learn Python and build a deck of cards. It didn't click and didn't connect with me. But when I said to myself, is there a problem that I can solve? And this is to the chat. So let me hit on answer live. And I'd like to answer this question live. You know,
we can read the question first again, if you can, so that others can also.
Right. So this is a great question.
Yeah.
You know, Mohan Muthu, a core network engineer for more than 25 years, double CCIE and a CCSI, certified instructor. DevNet and DevOps scares them a lot. And no matter how much they try to read on these, they're not able to get even the basics. Now, I'll address that in a second. But then they go on to say, just wondering how much of the core network engineering knowledge does a DevNet DevOps engineering possess?
Yeah.
In the exam, it's about 20% core networking engineering experience is about 20% of the actual cert. Now, most people, I would suggest, started as network engineers and moved into net DevOps. So they all likely have a very strong background. Now, I'm not sure what it is you're struggling with in particular, but maybe start with a project. Okay, so I'd like to take my routing table, or let's not even do routing table. I'd like to take my interfaces, show IP interface brief, and I'm going to build a CSV file of it, a spreadsheet, automatically. Just a simple project. It may seem simple. You're going to need Git to version and source control your iterations. You're going to need Python and a Python virtual environment. You're going to need, say, PyETS, a test case to parse the command, and then a Jinja template to turn it into a spreadsheet. I would put all of that in a Docker container to challenge yourself. So take that home as homework and try to figure out every little individual widget in this pipeline of parsing a command and turning it into a spreadsheet. Build on these things, right? Now, that's also safe. We're not configuring anything. Don't conflate configuration management with network automation. You can do configuration management with network automation, but that's not the only thing. You can do testing, you can do documentation. There is many more things to automation than just configuration management. And people jump right to configuration management, and that's tough, that's difficult, that's challenging. That can introduce outages and problems. Start with a lower hanging fruit. That's why PyETS is great. You can start with tests. Here's an example. Go on every interface in your whole network and look for CRC errors. Find out how many of your interfaces have CRC errors with PyETS and make a report. That's safe. That's relatively easy. You're not going to change or damage anything.
That's correct.
But think of the insight that you're going to get. Holy cow, GI4 on this switch has 2,000 CRC errors. What's going on, right? Think of it that way, right? So, sorry, go ahead. I got a bit excited there.
Oh, yeah, that's wonderful things that you brought up there. I think I agree with that. So people often tend to do push configurations directly onto the boxes when they try to build up the first of their scripts. So it's great. Even I would follow that when guided properly.
Well, there's a follow-up question here. A lot of scripts about troubleshooting. Could you let me know how automation and AI will help with network troubleshooting? Can I tell a story on where I started with artificial intelligence?
Of course, yeah, that'll be great. That's what we're here for.
Okay, so I have a PyETS test that tests interfaces. Now, picture in your mind, we've got 48 ports or however many ports. We have to loop over each port. And I'm going to use PyETS show interfaces, and that parses it and comes back as JavaScript object notation. So a dictionary. So I can go into the dictionary and look at key value pairs to say, is CRC errors greater than 0? If it is, fail the test. But there's 16 or 17 individual tests per interface that I have to write. I took a step back and I said, what if I did this instead? What if I parse the show interface command and sent the whole blob of JSON to AI and ask AI, is my interface healthy? So in my loop, instead of writing 20 tests,
Yeah.
I made one simple API call that sent the JSON per interface to AI and said, tell me if this interface is healthy.
Wow.
Yes or no. And it also rationalizes it. Because all these counters are 0, I determine that this interface is healthy, right? Imagine the power of that, right?
Yeah. So it's in simple terms, it's like you can use the capabilities of a system or of a processor to do a lot of repetitive tasks, and then you can increase the smartness of the task by designing it in whatever way that you want. And you don't need to do the hard work over there. You just need to think logically and smartly that what really you want your system to do on your behalf.
Exactly. And now there are tools similar to PyETS that I've mentioned. There's a tool called LangChain, which is a framework in Python or JavaScript, but I use the Python framework that we can integrate with our other framework. So I have my PyETS code, and now I can integrate LangChain into that PyETS code to do retrieval augmented generation or to just ask questions with agents. It's a very powerful combination of tools that we can augment our existing tools. Now, the other thing I want to mention, and this is a relatively recent discovery for me. If cost or privacy and security are holding you back with artificial intelligence, right? I understand it's expensive to get ChatGPT, and it's expensive for tokens. There is a new open source framework called Ollama. And Ollama lets you download open source models for free. And simulate a ChatGPT-like experience locally. Now, we can also go a step further, Abhijit. So listen, that Ollama server, it also exposes the API of the LLM or small language model that we download. So I load Ollama, and I download, let's say, the Llama 2 model, or the Phi model from Microsoft, or Mistral, or Gemma, or, right? There are many, many models we can download. They're free and local and secure and private. And then from there, I can expose my API system from Ollama and write my Python code. So that PyETS LangChain, where I send the interfaces to ask if they're healthy. Well, now I can send them locally, privately to Ollama, nothing connected to the cloud at all, $0, totally free. And still get an LLM experience and an artificial intelligence experience. So I know that our predominant listeners here are in parts of the world that may not even have access to ChatGPT. Or the cost is so prohibitive that it's stifling innovation. And I wanted to help spread the word that the open source community in artificial intelligence is thriving. And the models So, and the models are approaching the quality of ChatGPT 3.5 or 4 for free and local and securely.
I even have been testing the ChatGPT 4 one. I think it gives more deeper knowledge of answers, but it is a bit slow as compared to 3.5. So I guess
4 is still the best model. I'm not just, I understand, but you get what you pay for, right? So you pay for it, so it's better and it's a higher quality and it's faster. But if cost or security are concerns to you, not everyone wants to send their routing table to ChatGPT, right? That's private and secure information. But what if I could send it to a local private on-prem model instead? And get the best of both worlds, privacy and security, no cost, and I'm taking advantage of artificial intelligence.
Of course, I guess there's a follow-up by Mohan as well. Why would a core network engineer be concerned about translating a routing table into a spreadsheet? Shouldn't that be a job of someone who is maybe expert in the programming? I feel my core skills are better utilized in designing, implementing, and operating the network. And I can work with the programming expert to perform automation and stuff. So don't you think it is so much of core network engineer to do both?
Well, I mean, yes, if you have a department and developers, but now you're offloading your work onto them, and they have to understand networking and how to get access to the routers. And
If I share an observation
that.
on that, what I started observing is earlier, and I even have been interacting with a lot of people who are designing automation into the organizations. So there are definitely organizations who have dedicated teams, but then ever since DevNet came out, organizations are also willing to create roles specifically in the networking domain, that there can be someone who is leading the network automation vertical, and the candidate or the individual is responsible for designing, creating, and then deploying network automation practices into the domain. So when you talk about doing something like converting a routing table into a spreadsheet, you can achieve the same thing by using a CLI command, but when you do it with programmatic approach, then number one is you can do it on multiple devices in one go. Number two is you can have a system which analyzes the information that is fetched out from your network infrastructure. Number three, you can take predictive decisions based on the data that you'll be able to pull out. For example, the way how controllers are changing the way how you manage your network infrastructure is because the controllers now have the capability of showing you recent trends in your network traffic. And then such kind of trends, for example, a very powerful solution like Cisco Crossworks, right? It allows you to predict if something is going to be down in your network. And then based on that presumption, you'll be able to take decisions in the better way possible. So all of these decisions would be able to, or all of these decisions can be taken only if the data is available to your device, to your system in an understandable way. Because fetching out a routing table by using show IP interface brief only allows you to read that data, but in order for your system to be able to read it and take action against that data, you need to structure that data by using some data structuring languages. So it's quite important, according to me.
Well, I've got a lot to unpack on this. So I started with a simple example because you have to start somewhere, right? If you mentioned that you were struggling with basic concepts, so let's start with something basic like getting all of our interfaces into CSV files per device at scale. And now you can go hunting for information and you have the data in a data lake. I wouldn't dismiss that as a trivial thing. Oh, well, why? I'm the network engineer. Why would I need to do that? Let a programmer do that. I think you're missing the point here, right? There's valuable data, operational data and insights. If you translate things, get them out of these routers and into spreadsheets. The other thing is if they're Git tracked and you did that every 4 hours, you could look at your Git logs to see what changed. Now, what's the number one thing network troubleshooting? What's the first thing you ask? What changed? Something changed. Things don't just fail, right? So you look at the Git history, and the Git history says, interface 2 was up an hour ago, and now it's down. You've just cut the mean time to response by hours instead of looking at all that manually and going device to device to device to device. You look at your Git history, and it says this interface changed. Boom, right there. I know what changed.
I think
the other thing is if you want to get to a CI/CD pipeline, if you want to get to a full CI/CD pipeline where you have a Git version controlled system and you make the change to the code, and when I do a pull request, it triggers a build and a deploy and a test, a complex end-to-end CI/CD pipeline where your network is truly controlled by automation and by code, and no one ever does anything manually. That's where you want to get. Where can I get started on this journey? You can get started with getting routing tables as CSV files or JSON files. The next thing, in this world of artificial intelligence, I can take that CSV file and load it into a lang chain and now put a conversational interface in front of that routing table and literally chat with it, right? Yeah, so it's not, I wouldn't just dismiss it as, well, I'm the network engineer and I've got better things to do than make spreadsheets. I understand that, but you're going to write the code once and schedule it, and now boom, you have an automated Git tracked version and source controlled expression of all of your interfaces on the network, right?
I think using PyATS diff also fascinates me sometimes, and when it
PyATS diff is incredible. It's incredible, PyATS diff. That's right. So you can even build that into your PyTS code and just have the diff go to your WebEx room. I get a little message that says, well, something changed. And here's the diff from the golden intended state and the now broken state. And you get the diff right on your phone instantly, right? Because your PyTS test has caught it.
You don't have to scan through the entire running configuration.
No.
Okay, what's that? And sometimes you even tend to miss on the detail that you're looking for, right? Because it's too much of information scrolling through your eyes. So
right.
It definitely helps you there. That's one of the example that how tools like these can automatically scan information that might be of relevant for your troubleshooting journey, and then it can get you troubleshoot the network even faster and bring it back to the business, right? Instead of just keeping that to a standstill and looking for details that might help you troubleshoot it faster. That's great. Yeah.
Right. Well, I see a question here about trust and AI and automation. Right. You have to get everyone, your team and your executives and your culture to have trust in automation for sure. But that's earned. That's earned through testing and doing it in a lab and education and making sure that there's more than one or two people that understand the solution. Now, in terms of AI just configuring the network, one, I think you would be surprised in the wireless space how much of this is already happening, right? Artificial intelligence engines are automatically adjusting, say, power levels for radios. That's AI is doing that already today, right? So, and no one questions that. So why not automatically with artificial intelligence adjusting traffic flows using predictive and JP Vazur from Cisco. If you look up JP Vazur, he's got wonderful papers and a wonderful presentation at Cisco Live about predictive internet and shifting traffic flows ahead of time using telemetry and data and artificial intelligence to make the decision about where traffic should go. It's a fascinating paper from Cisco. JP Vazur is his name, and his team has just incredible work around predictive AI for network flows.
I think that explains a very important point that we as human might not be using all the information that is available with devices like routers and switches and firewall and be able to take the best decision that we can. But if we give all of that information to a processing system like CPUs or like our systems, then our systems would be able to consume all of that data and be able to predict what's correct for your network, right? So that's where the key interests are hidden, why you should actually move from traditional way of configuring and managing and because you're optimizing networks towards an automated way of managing your networks. That's great. So John,
I'm just going to get in the background here. I'm paying attention. I'm just going to get one of my demos loaded up in the background to give you an example of chatting with a routing table. Because it truly did evolve from the name of the author from Cisco is JP Vazur, Vasseur, I believe, EUR, yeah. You can find him on LinkedIn. He has all kinds of great work out there. Yeah, he's a Cisco fellow.
I put that in the, okay. I think I should put it to everyone.
So I'm just waiting for my containers to come up, but it's a great segue because this actually started with me using PyTS to get the routing table as JSON. And then I made it into mind maps, and then I made it into CSV files. And then LangChain came along. And if you'll bear with me here, let me start sharing my screen because this is just going to take a minute to load up. So let's talk about some things. So this is the tool that I was talking about, LangChain. And their documentation has all changed. It's all brand new, so it's nice and easy to find. This is the architecture. So they have different tools like LangSmith for observability, LangServe for deployments. The core functionality really is LangChain with core and community. Now, the approach that I use in a couple of different ways is this retrieval augmented generation. So the point here is that many LLM applications require user-specific data that's not part of the model's training set. So the idea here is to retrieve external data and pass it to the LLM when we do the generation step.
Mhm.
Now, in this chain, we actually need models twice. We need a model to do our embeddings, and then we need a language model to do our
Wow.
retrieval. Okay. Now, with Ollama, this can be done for free, the LLM, and I use a tool called Instructor for my embeddings. So let me go find that
Before
very
that,
quick.
John, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you.
No.
I often get stuck into another interesting question. We hear this particular word in AI a lot, which is LLM. Would you care to explain what is LLM exactly to the audience?
Sure. No, I
In a
should
very
have started there.
simplistic way, yeah.
Yeah, I should have started with the large language model. So the large language model is a file, and it comes in different sizes. Now, a small language model might be less than 3 billion parameters.
Wow.
And large language models are 7 billion, 13 billion, 70 billion, hundreds of billions of parameters. Now, this model is an instructor model to do embeddings. So this makes floating point numbers, vectors, out of the data, right? Now, this is not the LLM, but it is a different model that we can use. And I point out instructor because ChatGPT has embeddings through OpenAI.
Yeah.
Right? You can use the OpenAI embeddings function,
Right,
but this costs money and it's publicly available. Like it's in the cloud. It's not private and local. So we can use the instructor embed for free and local and privately. Now I'm going to show you Ollama. It's just, it's still building my container. This might still be a few more minutes.
Downloading the library.
But let me look at Ollama. Now this is the tool that you can download for Mac. Linux is just a curl. And then you bring up the server and start downloading models. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'll come back to the demo once that container is built.
That's amazing. We'll look forward to that. Okay, we have another question. That they're using. Oh yeah, Ajay in the chat is asking that it took years for organizations to start trusting on scripts like Python and programmatic approach towards implementing automation in the infrastructure. Do we really think that organizations are going to trust the automation that is getting implemented by AI and going to adapt it in the real world situations? Indeed, yes. In a way, organizations have already started adopting that, according to me, because a lot of the SDN solutions already uses programmatic approach towards suggesting you changes, towards suggesting you automated configuration provisioning, towards monitoring, towards troubleshooting. So in an indirect way, your organization is already trusting on decisions that are taken by the controller. It's just because they are validated by an organization like Cisco. When an organization creates a tool like that, then your organization is going to purchase that particular tool and then it's going to implement it in the production environment. Likewise, when there's someone who takes the responsibility of implementing automation with by using the you can say tools designed by an organization or using open source tools, the organizations definitely will get benefited by using it, and the trust factor will come on for sure. I think that. Any thoughts on this, John?
No, I think you nailed it. I think that we're already using artificial intelligence behind the scenes in several capabilities.
Yeah.
I also think that much like automation, artificial intelligence is going to achieve a point where it actually is as maybe not as good or as trustworthy as a human, but in the short to medium term, we're going to have humans in the loop. AI is going to be an augmentation. At some point, though, in the future, foreseeably, it will actually be better than humans will. It will make less mistakes. It will generate code of very high quality that you could use in production. The problem that people are facing is how do we do it securely and privately and locally, and not necessarily with an open AI system or a chat GPT system, as wonderful as it is. Now, there's ways that organizations, at the organization layer, can make enterprise agreements to keep that data private, or partnerships with Azure or something. So it's going to come. It's going to come rapidly. Suddenly, AI is going to be on your shore. And I think that people should start at least learning the prompt engineering portion. So my demo is just about to come up here in a second. I'm just waiting for the layers to come up. And let's take a look at this, because this is just a simple demo, and it is, I don't want to say slow, but I am doing things locally with an old RTX 2060 GPU. I'm just waiting for the layers to come up. Sorry, it's not quite done yet. But as you can see in my container, my Docker Compose rather, I'm bringing up Ollama locally to my server for my GPU, or for my LLMs and SLMs. I'm opening up Open Web UI, a front end for Ollama. And then I have my chatting with router code that is going to use a PyETS job and talk to the Ollama server. Sorry, it should just be coming up now. Okay, so now I can visit Ollama locally and sign in. And here I have downloaded 2 models into this already. The Phi model, a small language model, and the Llama 2 model. Now, if you've used ChatGPT, this looks very much like ChatGPT, doesn't it?
It does.
Right? Except I can pick the model and then chat with it. It's all local though. So now what I can do in my code, in my server, to chat with the routing table. Sorry, it's very slow once I have this running. Just bear with me. So we're going to go to localhost 8501, and we're going to run up. See here how it has access to Ollama, my code. So I'm going to just pick Phi 2 because it's small and fast. And we're going to run the PyETS job. Now this is in a UI called Streamlit, but if we look in my code here, here is the PyETS code running. And it's going to run the show IP route command. There is the routing table.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to proceed to chat once this is done, and actually chat with this routing table. So we're going to proceed to chat, and we're going to say, what is my default route?
Wow.
Ask it the question. Now, I'm downloading the instructor embeddings model locally. This only happens the first time you run this. So we just have to wait another minute or two while it pulls down the model. But if you look
all
inside,
the information so that it can scan through it and find out what you're looking for.
So this is downloading the model to just make my vectors, to do my floating point number system. And then I'm going to store the vectors and the chunks of text and then use it as a retriever. So we just have to be patient here. But we will see in my logs here somewhere. It's not quite there yet. It hasn't hit my GPU yet. But in my logs, once this download is done, we're going to see it actually hit my GPU. And we can look at that Llama 2 model's details in the Ollama server logs. We just have to be patient. It's just downloading this. And the other thing while we wait there is if you visit github.com/automate your network, I have Packet Buddy, Document Buddy, Packet Raptor, all kinds of different open source repositories. My PDF for my book is available on here. So if you want to start with network automation with Ansible, the PDF is here for free on my GitHub repository.
That's great.
Okay, so now I'm starting the conversational retrieval chain. Now check this out. Here in my Ollama server, locally, I have the Phi 2 model loaded. That's 1.5 gigabits in size and double the parameters. So 2.78 billion parameters. And now it's actually using the API system to generate the response. And here is the default route information that I've been chatting with.
That's great.
So I can literally chat with my routing table.
That's great. So this again decreases the amount of time and effort that you need to put in manually, and you can just ask your assistant there, who's doing all kinds of
Whatever you want, you can ask anything you want about the routing table. If I was a packet going to 192.168.111 or 100.100, where would I go? What interface would I use? And it'll say that based on the routing table, that packet would use GI3 or whatever, right?
Amazing. So with that, thanks for the amazing demo. With that, when we think about a proper approach towards starting your journey, maybe for someone who have studied DevNet Associate and then is able to write all kinds of basic manual script towards pushing and pulling configuration to and from network devices, what do you think should be a proper approach towards stepping into the game of AI and learning it? A proper path.
Yeah, so I think get educated on the tools and the terminology, right? Do some homework, watch some videos, spend some time on LangChain has a wonderful YouTube channel to get you going on LangChain and RAG and retrieval augmented generation. There's all kinds of material out there. In terms of where to get started with network automation itself, like I said, my book is free, but there are many free resources out there. The DevNet Associate is probably your stepping stone to success. Read the book, take some labs, practice exams, whatever it is you need to do. Really focus on a foundational layer before you just start changing things.
Your logic towards what can be automated and how your approach towards thinking and designing automation should be done, right? And then
there's like I things that I don't know that I don't know, and then moving to things that I know that I don't know. Right. And then things I know that I know, right? So it is a journey right now. If you haven't started and you're just wondering, like why do I even need this? Why is this important? If you try it for 6 months, 3 months, and actually implement some successful tools, I think your opinion will change and you'll say, why haven't I always been doing it this way? Why didn't someone show me this earlier, right?
Indeed, yeah. Amazing, perfect. I think that gives us pretty much clarity towards how AI and automation is going to blend together. Now, we'll be moving towards the Q&A and see if we have some interesting questions, and then we're good to call it off.
Okay.
There's a question by Akhilesh, who says, okay, before that, there's a question by Sanjay. So how AI could be created as Big Brother in the network for an organization which has multiple team and all of the team during the troubleshooting struggle to arrive to the cause of the issue, speaking from IPAM or DNS or Nokia, Quip or Infoblox perspective.
Well, all these things have APIs, right? All these systems you just mentioned likely have API systems that you can get data out of in the form of JSON, load it into a LangChain and start chatting with it. There's also collaboration tools and collaboration spaces. Maybe add a bot that you build to join your collaboration space, right? In WebEx or something. I don't think, if everyone in those tools that you listed, each of them has access to the API system, and you could all collaborate together to pull the JSON from different sources into a directory and then load that and chat with it, right? Yeah. Just like I did the routing table, except
I think that's why every organization nowadays is designing the API documentation for whatever solutions that they have so that they can be interacted programmatically, and then they can, we can say, enable the programmatic use case of their solutions. Perfect. Then we have Akhilesh with us. Akhilesh says, what is the best option to move from network enterprise to automation or security? And why company working slow in automation?
Why is it? I wish I had an answer. So here's the code is easy. The code is easy. You know what's hard? The culture is hard. Culture is hard to change. It's hard to change an entire organization's direction and strategy and not leave anyone behind. And there's a lot of friction involved from moving from a current operation to an automated operation. There's a lot of people involved. in terms of an organization, right?
Yeah.
So that's why there's a slow uptake is the cultures haven't changed. But it only takes one or two people in the organization to start at the bottom, a grassroots movement, and set up a WebEx room, set up a weekly meeting, an automation enthusiasts meeting or an automation club, and open up the invites and see who shows up, and then make it a weekly meeting that you then turn into a project, right? Culture is what's holding things back, not the tools, not the technologies, not the code.
Tools are sitting already there to be implemented.
They're all there. All the frameworks you need are out there. It's the culture that is holding us back.
Yeah. I guess it's the thought process of an organization who wants to implement it faster. They'll pull off everything together to start implementing it into the domain. And people who are not able to decide whether it's good or bad for the organization, they might do a bit of delay in terms of bringing that in. Awesome, perfect. And then we have Vishal with us, who says, we're using SD-WAN. Can you please discuss more use case of automation in network operations team?
Well, again, SD-WAN has a rich API system.
Yeah,
right? The vManage has incredible APIs. So start working with Postman or curl or Python request library and start interfacing with the vManage's API system.
That's correct. Yeah.
Start there.
With that, Postman is again a great tool. Thanks for mentioning that. Those who get started with automation and they are pretty early in their journey, they can use Postman as a tool to build your HTTP queries and start interacting with the controllers. And then the controllers throws all sorts of information that you eventually see in the GUI when you log in into the vManager. So be it creating new templates, be it attaching templates to your manages, be it creating policies, be it looking at the analytics data, be it looking at the dashboard data, you can push and pull all sorts of information and structured data like JSON files by using Postman, and then eventually can convert it into an interactive Python script, because creating or using Postman will limit you to execute maybe a query at a time or a single API at a time. But you can create a utility that can actually turn out to be a real-time use case in your organization for maybe interacting with vManager, fetching some data, and then taking action against that particular data with the help of a Python script, and you can start implementing that. That's great, yeah. Perfect. I guess we have one more question by Tejas, who says, is one programming language, Python, JSON, YAML, etc., enough to learn to manage all sorts of network security? Well, there are different type of languages which are available. Python, JSON, and YAML, they go hand in hand. You cannot compare Python with JSON or YAML. Python is a scripting language, whereas JSON and YAML, both of them are data structuring language. So all sorts of information that you receive with the help of your Python script, when you write down a Python script, you will be able to send and receive information from your network device. And the information that you're going to receive or send will be written in a data structuring language. So you can use a programmatic or a scripting language like Python, then you can learn a data structuring language like YAML and JSON and XML. You can learn a data modeling language like Yang, and they all can go hand in hand to create automation infrastructure workflows for you. Anything that you would like to add to this, John?
No, I think you need to really focus on some basics, right? And understand where YAML and JSON fit in with Python, which is the computer programming language. So, right, so Python is the framework, like mailboxes and envelopes and stamps, right? And you're going to send a letter, and what comes back, right, inside of the letter that gets returned is JSON or YAML, the payload. And you're using Python just as the framework to send that letter and receive letters. Well, I wanted to thank you, Abhijit and PyNet Labs and Dipanshu. I really had a good time today, and I wish you all the success with all these podcasts. I want to thank everyone who joined us from all around the world today. This has been remarkable. I hope that you learned something and had some fun with us today.
Indeed, yeah. Thank you so much, John, for coming live on this particular webinar. It was an absolute pleasure having you. And I strongly believe that all the attendees who attended the webinar got to know about how AI and automation goes hand in hand. Thanks for the amazing demo that you brought up. That might have gave a trailer to what is the power of AI and automation together. And I strongly believe that a lot of people are going to get started with their automation journeys very soon. And I look forward to see you again to host another webinar on an interesting topic. Let's see how that goes up. Thanks for joining again. And thank you for everyone who attended the webinar. All of you would be getting the recording of this particular webinar. And I'd also be able to share the book that John highlighted and all the other resources and repositories he mentioned in a follow-up email to you as a documentation. Thanks again, guys. Thanks, John, and have a wonderful day.
Take care.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.